Hey guys, Zach here, and today I want to show you guys how I turned this drink dispenser from a terrarium into an awesome aquarium. So, let's go! Just quickly before the video does get started, if you guys could consider subscribing, it does greatly help the channel, and without further ado, let's get into it. Alright, so first things first is I'm just going to empty this out. I'm going to rehome the plants that are in here. There's only some moss and earth star and an arrow plant, and then get rid of the substrate, take out the hardscape, and then empty out the bottom that has just a leak in it. It's only going to take me probably 5 minutes, so I'll be back in a second. So now with this cleaned out, I just kind of want to go over what I'm sort of planning to do. I think I want to keep this really simple and not do too much just because it's relatively small. It's not that big. It's probably only a gallon or maybe 2 at the most, so I do want to keep the scape in here very simple. And I think what I'm going to try and do is just use some spray foam along the back and some lava rock just to create depth, and then I'm just going to fill up the back wall with moss and create this giant moss wall on the back and keep it super simple without going too over the top, and I think it'll have a pretty big impact with that nice moss wall. So let me get that started. All I'm doing here is adding spray foam along the back and then plunking the lava rock in. No real pattern, just trying to get depth. So now with this done and the spray foam has set, you can see that I've just tried and do basically the back half. And I just pushed down the spray foam after about 15 minutes, and now I've let it cure for about an hour. And it's pretty good. It's all pretty solid. I do just want to leave it for at least a couple more hours, maybe even overnight, before I do anything more, just to let the spray foam off gas. This is just for an abundance of safety, just to make sure that there's nothing still setting with the spray foam, because if there is some sort of chemical that's going to off gas, I don't want that to be in the water or in any of the substrate, so I'm just going to leave it for a couple of hours and let it completely cure. And once it is completely cured, it is totally safe. So I'll catch you guys back tomorrow. So it's now the next morning, and as you can see, this is completely dry. Even if I kind of like pull at it and hit it, it's nice and dry. It's completely off gas. The spray foam is very hard now, so it's really good. It's starting to look very nice, and I like how it's turned out. So with this tank, I'm not going to do too much stuff with anything as far as substrate goes with planting. So in this tank, I'm going to keep the substrate really simple, and I'm just going to use sand. I'm not going to put in any nutrient base, just because I want to keep it super simple. So let me get the sand in. So as you guys can see, there's like about an inch of sand in there, and it's looking pretty good. Just turn that. I'm really happy with how this is looking right now. It's looking really good, and all I'm gonna do now is just get the moss in all of these little cracks everywhere. So it's just gonna be some super glue that I'm going to use, and just on any of the yellow spots, I'm just gonna fill it in with moss. I've got lots of moss, so it shouldn't be a problem. And that's going to hide the spray foam and allow the moss to grow, and it should soon spread across the entirety of the wall. So let's get that on. Now, as you guys can see, I've planted all the way up and down, and it's really looking good, and I'm really happy with the way that this is turned out and just how the moss is coming through along with the lava rock. It's kind of hard to see from the front until I get the lighting on it and all set, but I'll show you guys that soon. For now, I just want to fill it up, and I'm also going to add in a couple of these little kind of stems of Hydrocotyl tripartita, And that's just going to kind of be near the top because I know that this hydrocotyle can grow sort of up the sides of stuff. Like in my waterfall paludarium, I have some of it growing up the waterfall itself, and it does quite well immersed. So I'm going to add some of that just near the top here, where it's going to be able to get that water, but it can grow immersed, and it's going to add a little bit more texture to the moss wall. So let me get this filled up. Alright, so it's been about a week since you guys have last seen this tank, and in that time I've just really let the moss kind of grow in and just really let everything settle. But in that time there is an issue that has come up that I just was not aware of, and that is that this tank is actually leaking. Right here, this faucet, I thought that it was on properly and tight enough. However, it looks like the seal isn't completely good on it and it's leaking, but it's leaking super slowly. I'm talking, I left it over probably about a week, and all that's drained out is this much over the course of a week, as well as a lot of evaporation that has happened, and it's really just not noticeable at all. If I filled it back up, I wouldn't even know. I've been checking down here just where it is leaking, and I'll maybe feel like a drop on the day, and that's about it. So I've thought of really two possible solutions for this, and I'm going to take a while to decide, but I know I want to do one of the two. So the first is just to drain it to below this point and have just a small pool of water, put the lid on, and then mist the moss. And then the other option would just to be to put it over something, because my shelving is wood. So all I need to do with how slow this leak is just put something under it, and that something is just probably going to be like a plastic lid or a plastic dish, something like that, that'll be able to hold the water. And because of how little it is probably going to evaporate off, honestly. So it's not too big of a concern. It's just going to be whatever fits the design better. And the one issue with lidding it is just, you can't see it right now, but up top, I didn't consider the possibility of it leaking because I did do a water test, and I'm a little high for the lid, so I'll need to rework that if I do decide to put the lid on. So for now, I'm just going to get this drained, and I do want to put in some more detail stuff in the bottom. Then I will be back. So as I previously mentioned, I had two solutions that I had thunk up real quick, just because I had seen the puddle of water and I wanted to get a quick solution, which was to either drain it or put something plastic underneath it. And I thought that that was going to be how this tank had to live for the rest of its life, which was either something underneath it or draining it down to here. I've drained it down to there. I don't like it with the low water. It's meant to have water all the way to filled up. That's how I envisioned it, and that's how I'm gonna have it. But instead of putting something plastic underneath and kind of ruining the look, not ruining the look, but having something else interfere with it, I just did something much simpler. I realized I had some silicone on hand, and all I've done is I've just re-siliconed all the way around this outside piece. You can't even see it, it's hidden by the tap. So I just re-siliconed around there, and I just tightened the bolt that's in the back here. Let me change the angle here. So siliconed up here. You can see that there's some silicone here. I'll clean it up after, but you can't see it from the front. And that white nut on the back, I just retightened that, and honestly that should be good, and I'll be able to fill it back up. So I just want to give this time to cure. It should cure in about an hour or 20 minutes, and then I can refill it and it'll be completely cured in 24 hours, but it shouldn't get any water. So I'll be back in about an hour. Now, while I'm waiting for the silicone to cure, I'm just going to add in a couple detail stones in the front here. I just realized that it's very bare in the front, and I didn't like that as much as I thought I would. So I'm just going to add in a couple of small stones, just kind of poking out kind of near the front, just to add a little bit more interest to this. And it's not too much, it's just a small outcropping, just like that, just to add a little bit more interest, so when you come around the front you can kind of see them, but when you're viewing it from the side, there's a lot more interest in the scape itself than just a wall of moss. So that's in, and now I just need to let the silicone cure. So it has been 24 hours since I put the new seal on here. So now all I need to do is just fill this up and we can take our final look at it. Now with this all filled up, I can add some floating plants. So I'm just going to add in a little bit of salvinia. Now, you can see that there is some duckweed. That's perfectly fine. It just was part of the moss, and it's come out with the moss, so not too big a deal. I wanted some in here anyways, but I think that this will add a little bit from the top-down perspective, and it'll look really good. So that is everything for this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this scape. I know I really enjoyed making it. It's definitely got its own special character, and it's a little bit different from what I normally do. But if you have enjoyed, please consider subscribing, and I will see you guys next time. Peace.